Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my partners in crime. That would be Moen's Show and Immaculate View. How you guys doing tonight?
Excellent.
Immaculate, did you take your shot of adrenaline before the show?
I just had to grab it.
Okay, that's not adrenaline. It's the exact opposite of adrenaline.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
That's like you're using something to calm you down. That probably is what you need, to be honest.
This has been, wow, what a couple of days. That's what that is.
Our stepchild has decided to join us today. Drake C. Toll. He's been very kind to us on his show. Immaculate and I have spent quite a bit of time over there, and he's going to give us a few of his minutes tonight. How you doing, Drake?
Hey, guys, I'm doing awesome. I haven't slept for 24 hours. I won't sleep for another 24 hours. This is my own personal Christmas, I think. This is I don't want to say it's my Super Bowl, but I've been waiting for something of this magnitude to finally drop. And also waiting, at some point, Moen's got to bring his entire vibe onto the show as well. He's the only odd man out here. We got to have him on.
And he's not Moen's he's got his Crown Royal.
I got a glass. He's got a whole bottle.
Okay, we're gonna have a big show tonight. There's gonna be a ton of people here. We've been building this up for 2 days, and there's tons of ground to cover. So let me just take care of some business here at the beginning, and then we will get started. It looks to me like we even have Greg Flugaur in the wings. Are you kidding me? Greg, poke me on a DM. If you want to join the show, you've talked a lot the last couple days, but if you decide you want to actually participate, just send me a DM and I'll send you the link. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is the Big 12 Mafia Show. And we talk about realignment. We talk about all things college football, college athletics in general, when there's other sports to cover. But we're here tonight to talk about Florida State, the ACC, and the mess that ESPN has created on its own accord. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Everybody, turn on your notifications on both YouTube and on Twitter. And then everybody, you can see their handles on Twitter. Please follow everyone that you're watching here on Twitter so you can see what we're talking about will come out in the show tonight. So of all of us, the one I know that's most excited to get going tonight, and we're going to do a rant special for Immaculate. Immaculate, you take as long as you want to go to kind of catch everybody up to where we are right now.
Oh, good Lord. Right now? All right, on
right
the spot. Now. Well, in terms of Florida State, what we just had happen was what we thought was just going to be a simple board of trustee meeting that said, hey, we're looking to leave the ACC. What it ended up turning into, as we were watching it live, was a pretty large release of information that we had not had yet. We found out some interesting details about the intricacies between the ACC and ESPN and the schools in the ACC. They have some interesting, I don't have a better word for that, interesting details, whereas, how shall we put it, when a commissioner decides to ignore his own bylaws of his conference and makes an agreement with the network above and beyond the precedents, that's an issue. And that's what was brought out at this. I mean, they have filed for a judgment from a court that would basically give them the right to leave the conference. Still trying to process it all. And I guess the day before, the ACC actually filed ahead of them in North Carolina to try and get a court to say that they have to hold these hearings in the state of North Carolina. So we may have a case here of dueling courts. I do not know how this is going to go. I've been talking on X with some folks, including one lawyer, and this does happen, and it might be a competing battle with motions to dismiss, motions to move. It's going to be interesting. So sit back. This is going to be a bit of a drama before we get to the settlement table. But this is the first move for Florida State to make their way out of the ACC. And if they are successful, this looks like precedence for anyone else to do the same.
Drake, you're plugged into the actual sort of journalism side of the reporting that we do. You do work with ESPN. You have partnerships with a lot of people that are in media. What are you hearing right now?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of the same, in that everyone's shocked with the amount that came out of this Board of Trustees meeting. You were going in assuming Florida State was going to make it very clear that their future in the ACC was nigh. I mean, they were going to leave, but the way that it was all laid out, and then reading the document, the lawsuit they've already put forward, I didn't expect that we would get 38 pages of not only we're leaving, but here's why we're leaving, and in depth that says we did not believe, or we were led under a different impression of our contract with ESPN. We were told, we were given information that in the end isn't going to be the case, and which is all a really fun roundabout way to use the word fraud. That's what Florida State's saying, is that they're fraudulent pieces of the grant of rights, or areas in which the ACC and Jim Phillips did not hold up their end of the bargain. And I think you put this so well, Mafia, on my show today. This was lock and key. The ACC wanted to keep this away, the grant of rights away from Florida State and others, because they knew that, there's a hole here, there's a hole there, and let's not have everybody go digging. And now that Florida State they have such a better upper hand than I even expected, that they control this until the ACC is able to come back with what I thought would be a grant of rights under a lockbox that was similar to what the Big 12 originally had. Now Florida State, with the upper hand, will certainly get out of the ACC, and I can almost guarantee it won't be for $500+ million.
So, Moen, you're really up on, especially Ohio State, but in particular, news that's associated with Notre Dame, or where they might go and might not go. At the end of the day, is Florida State going to move by themselves, or are they going to have a travel partner?
They'll have a travel partner, but everybody's going to have to see what happens with Florida State. I think people are waiting to see what other legal experts say regarding these filings. I'm sure Clemson's viewing it very closely. UNC is probably viewing it very closely. Their legal departments certainly are looking at this very, very closely. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what happened. We thought that Florida would come out with one argument to get out of the grant of rights. They came out with seven. So all they need is one. They just need one, and they gave us 7. So, boy, they did not disappoint. I will give their attorney, their counsel, kudos. They did not disappoint.
And as we all know that's on this show right now, and the people that are frequent viewers of all of our shows and everything we've done for the last half year especially, they know that Florida State's been planning this for a long time. Nobody should be shocked or surprised by the end result that we're dealing with here. I think the only thing that really stands out is the ineptitude of the way the ACC has been run, how the contract runs through 27, but then there's an automatic extension to go to 2036. It's not necessarily lock and key all the way to the end of that. Yeah, there's a big payday out there that people have seen on a spreadsheet, but does anybody think they're going to be paying $500 million at this point? They've shown injury. They've shown where they're really being impacted. And I think at the end of the day, what's most important that we need to keep in mind is these are people, and they have been stepped on by the College Football Playoff Committee. The perception is Florida State is less than. And does anybody believe they're happy with that?
If I could even interject there, less so the College Football Playoff Committee, I would have put this more on ESPN. This feels like a direct movement from a TV network that says, look, we just don't care. And if I'm ESPN and you see that today of, wait a second, all of these schools were under the impression we were going to keep paying them. The ACC had given them the impression this contract would run through 2037, and that's why the grant of rights was signed. I'm wondering where did I come in on this? Already, we have seen favoritism toward the SEC, and no shock, the amount of money that would have been lost had an SEC team not gotten to the college football playoff is what ultimately got Alabama in. It wasn't the 4 most deserving teams. They told you that. It was the 4 best teams was the quote that they used. And now what you're seeing is, to me, less so even just the College Football Playoff Committee, but instead the rearing of a TV network and the power that those players have, because they truly are the biggest pillars.
I mean, immaculate. You have been talking to lawyers. I know in the background you've been really tracking a lot of these other legal cases that have given reasons for why people have made decisions. The news came out today that they're using now Cal, Stanford, and SMU's integration into the ACC. The vote that happened in September is actually a reason that Florida State is citing that the ACC is worth less money, going to be worth a lot less money after 2024 in August. And that's another reason they want to leave.
Well, if you remember when that happened, we made a lot of noise, and so did a lot of other folks, including Greg Flugaur in chat, about how the no votes by Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina, those mattered, but we didn't quite know how. We didn't quite know why, but we needed to see how that plays out. Here we are. This is it. Their no vote on that allows them to kind of bring that up and use that in court. And then if they're going to say that it decreases the value of the contract instead of increases because you're more mouths to feed, but it's not going to increase the payout per school. That's part of it. The other part that I found very interesting legally is the fact that it has a clause in there that allowed ESPN to basically pull out of the agreement early, and they would have had to have decided that back in 2021. And Phillips did not allow the presidents, which he should have done by the bylaws, to vote on pushing that forward to 2025 for that to be determined. What that tells me is that there was some fear that maybe ESPN was actually going to cut them loose. And if they put it to vote on whether or not to give that extension to ESPN to go from 21 to 25 to decide, that some of these presidents would have said no. That to me is what Phillips was fearing, is that some of those presidents, for state and who knows else, would have said no, decide now. Otherwise, I don't know why you go against your bylaws, why you take that risk. He basically broke their own rules to do that.
In 2021, what you're talking about is he went in and extended the agreement on his own. They didn't have a vote.
It's a particular part of the agreement that it would have allowed ESPN to basically drop this.
Exactly.
And drop away from the ACC. And that would have taken effect in 27, I think is what it was.
27.
And, single-handedly, he decided to give them 4 more years to make that decision, which means he didn't trust the presidents to make the right decision.
Immaculate, to you, does that show that it's a bit of what I mentioned with the ESPN deal? I think there are people on both sides who woke up today with that information of, wait a second, we as universities were supposed to vote and were overstepped by the commissioner. To you, does that show that Jim Phillips was just trying to buy time? Maybe by 2025, maybe by then I can try to ink something with ESPN and keep this under everyone's noses to damage control himself.
Sure. Remember 2021, those were tough times. Yeah. There's a lot of talk about the cable industry and going down, and there was probably some very real fear that, hey, if we don't give them an extension, they're not going to be able to tell us that they can continue going forward. So you give them an extension to get past everything that was going on. I understand the logic of it. Like, from Phillips, it makes sense, but you had to break your bylaws to do what you did, and you were that fearful that you wouldn't get the vote that you were willing to risk that. So to me, that was the standout thing, and it's a small part of it, but at the same time, I think that's the building of they broke their own bylaws. How does any of the rest of this get enforced?
All right, before we move on, first of all, there's a drinking game going on now. I'm not drinking. I don't have my eggnog with me tonight. But if you are over 21 and not driving, what are you drinking, Moen? Why don't you explain what you're doing?
I'm drinking straight Crown Royal.
Okay. Unfiltered.
Well, it's on the rocks. I shouldn't say straight.
Okay. All right. It's been cool. That's same. Nice. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not encouraging anybody to drink. Go out and get some eggnog, but that's what Moen's doing.
Moen is encouraging anybody to drink.
Greg Flugaur called that out, so I wanted to bring that up. There's 100 people watching live. We have another 50 people watching live on Twitter. Everybody, please subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications. So in the future, you'll catch our future shows. This is going to be a big show. We're going to be here for probably 2 hours. And we're encouraging everybody. Eventually, we hope to be taking questions and going through comments. All right, Drake, I'm not sure how much time we have with you. If there's 2 points that you wanted to get out to everybody tonight, to the people watching, that they need to keep and focus on as we go into these days moving forward.
I think point number one would be this is a win for the Big 12. Coming from a Big 12 perspective, even though this might not directly impact them today, the conference and Brett Yormark today, it does long term, and more so for me, it's sentimental. I remember a time, 3 years ago where we were all looking around the room when Texas and OU left and had decided the Big 12 was going to fall apart. I was a Baylor student at the time, wondering if my university would be in the Mountain West or independent or trying to build a contract with the AAC to play games, which is what Oregon State, trying to build a contract with a different conference, what Oregon State and Washington State are going through. So now is the Big 12, how quickly things can turn. And the right moves that were made from Bob Bowlesby into Brett Yormark right there at the end of the Bowlesby tenure and into Yormark's businessman-like mentality that have brought the Big 12 still to the forefront of college athletics. And now in a spot where there are at least murmurs of, wait a second, what if the Big 10 balks at this school? What if the SEC won't take this school? And the Big 10 is sitting, the Big 12 that is sitting in a good enough spot to make a case for some of these power programs. That in itself is my biggest takeaway here from my Big 12 perspective. And then takeaway number two, and it's the one school I can't stop thinking about today, is the school that left the AAC and slapped everybody in the face and said, we're going to pay our way in for 9 years to a conference and take a huge chance and slap TCU and the Big 12. You take that big middle finger for nobody taking us. We're the princess. And SMU decides to go to the ACC. What this will do, if that conference does implode or even becomes a lesser version of itself to a dramatic degree, is SMU has just signed itself up. It's hitched its wagon. I think, Mafia, you put it this way. It has taken a chain, wrapped it around the steer of the Titanic right as it's going down. And that to me is just, for the amount of flack that we've gotten from SMU sources and SMU fans in the last 6 months, it couldn't have been a worse move at the time to me, and this is reaffirming that. So my two takeaways, great for the Big 12, and if you're SMU, it may be a tougher day for them than anybody else involved because the writing's on the wall.
Well, and I'm going to follow that up really quick before we move on, is what are the schools you think the Big 12 has the best opportunity to get?
Yeah, I still don't think, I'm positive that Florida State is not in play in the Big 12. I know Brett McMurphy threw that into a tweet, and now people start running and jumping toward it. Of course, I addressed it, but I don't think Florida State is in. They have, and you put this so eloquently, they have something set up. You don't do this. You don't make this big of a stink without a plan somewhere or a middleman somewhere who has given you a landing spot. So Florida State to the Big 10 seems most likely right now. At this point, the murmurs about a Miami are still quiet. In talking to my sources at Miami, they're hoping, man, if the ACC falls apart and we get stuck in the Big 12, we're all going to wipe our brow and say, well, at least we didn't get left behind completely in the ACC to rot. So there's a way in which Miami is in those conversations. I think the most likely, though, you're still looking at your auxiliaries. So that's how I consider them, those being Pitt and Louisville. And I don't think Virginia Tech is even in that conversation yet because the way they're tied to Virginia. But right now at a Pitt, at a Louisville, if we can at least get 4 of those, I'm happy. Dream scenario of a Clemson, Florida State, Miami. If everybody else wants to talk about that, great. I'm holding off on that. Circle Pitt, circle Louisville. Those are the 2 that I want right away.
Immaculate, do you agree?
My shocker to throw on the list for who I think the Big 12 has a reasonable chance at is Clemson. I know people don't talk about that, and there's even people on the show are going to be like, Clemson's probably going to the Big 10 or SEC. And I would say that's the majority view. Mm-hmm. For me, I disagree. I think they're going to have some troubles in both of those directions. And this, if Florida State wins this, I think this gives more chance for a school like Georgia Tech.
Right.
If they don't do well with this, and most of that money that costs to get out stays there, upwards of that $500 million, then that's not good for a school like Georgia Tech, and that's good for Clemson. So seeing how that goes is going to make a lot of difference in that as far as I see it. So, if the better Florida State does in this, in my opinion, the better it is for the Big 12.
I love it.
Moen, same question.
Pitt, Louisville, Syracuse, and then they're going to add UConn.
Really, you think?
Gets them into that Northeast corridor, gets the New York market.
Okay.
I think that's what Brett Yormark desires more than anything else. So Those are the ones I see as being the most likely. I think Clemson lands in the Big Ten.
So could you start a poll, basically asking, which ones people think are going to go, and have them vote, put out the ones we all know. Really quick, again, and I'm not sure how much time you have, Drake. I apologize.
No, you're fine. A couple more minutes here. I got you.
About that. You let me know when you got to go. So let's talk about the two that are the ones that are flyers that we think are drawn to both the SEC and the Big Ten, and that's Virginia and North Carolina. They're the two question marks. And the main reason those are question marks is because nobody knows if they're going to be able to secure their release from North Carolina State and Virginia. So what do you guys think about North Carolina and Virginia?
What you got, Drake?
That one's for you, Immaculate. They're not in my conference.
If all of these could be determined singularly, I think I would go back to what I used to say: North Carolina and Virginia to the Big Ten. Easy, done. It's not that simple, though. When you have to start adding on their little brothers, I think the SEC can solve that a lot better. And I think you see those four go to the SEC with like 50% to 75% payments.
Okay. Moen, what do you think?
Hold on, I'm trying to run a poll here, Nate.
So. Oh, I apologize. All right. Your opinion doesn't matter. Anyway.
Making a multitask.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. You got to go, Drake.
Mafia, before I hop out of here, I gave my two takeaways, but here's my number one. I'm going to call it today, December 22nd at 6:20 Central Time. There is no way there'll be a merger between the fledgling ACC and the Big 12 after this. There is no way Brett Yormark negotiates with this. Put that to a close. It won't happen, guys. Thanks so much for your time.
Good seeing you, Jake. Thanks for coming on.
We'll see you later. Have a great weekend.
See you guys. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. We'll see you. All right. I'm going to welcome to the show right now somebody that I have followed for a while and I think is quite popular out there. And that would be Jen from Renegade Report. How are you doing, Jen?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I hope does everything sound okay? I didn't get to check it. I didn't have anybody to check it against.
I think you're doing okay. I mean,
okay,
we'll
awesome,
let you know if there's problems.
Sometimes it sounds like there's a little bit of a growl in my headphones, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys didn't get that sort of feedback.
There is a little feedback. Do you know why that is? Is it something you can fix with the mic or something?
I can hop out and get right back in.
All right, why don't you do that?
Okay.
While we're waiting for Jen to join us, the things that I think were the most funny of all of this is how quickly the contract came out. The lawsuit came out, the 38 pages, and how quickly the Oregon State people started combing that thing, looking for anything that says Stanford, Cal, and SMU. Did you guys notice that? They were the first ones to start reporting on page 25 in the contract.
I'm sorry, which one was that again? I was voting on his poll.
Okay, you guys in the poll. I apologize. I'll never do a poll again.
I was complaining because I didn't like any of the four choices.
That's okay. We'll get back to that because I'm going to ask Jen the same question.
Yep,
okay, Jen. So Florida State, what are you guys thinking now?
Well, I think I'm sorry. I know what everybody is saying, but I've only been hearing the Big Ten for about a year. It's been the Big Ten the whole time. It's I know what everybody says, the SEC, but that hasn't been it at all. I think it's been the Big Ten, and I think you can tell that by the moves Florida State has made with their research facility, the working on getting that AU designation, and which I think I'm hearing they'll have it by summer. I think that's been the goal all along. I think, and by the way, Florida State isn't doing this without knowing that they have a landing spot, right? I mean, they're definitely not going to put themselves out there like this. I think, and by the way, I followed you for so long. I agree with everything you've said. This is, and honestly, when they came out with some of the stuff they said today, I hadn't heard. I mean, a lot of it was a surprise to me, but it was a nice surprise. They had really done their due diligence there. We know they've had lawyers working on this. Tell me, what did you think about their statement about saying if this gets thrown out or if they designate the grant of rights to be ineligible or, however they worded it, they said they want to go ahead and issue that date to be August 14th of 2023. That was interesting to me.
Yeah. And doesn't it roll back to what we were hearing rumblings that was the case long ago? Right? We heard in August and July, you guys might do it then. And you'd probably just didn't have the legal pieces in place.
Yeah. I was surprised by a lot of what they had in there. How about the fact that it got extended without the rest of the members approving it?
Right.
This is wild to me. This is a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's very strange, and I get a lot of the other ACC teams or schools being upset right now, but shouldn't they be upset with the ACC? Because they were just as fleeced as the rest of, as Florida State was. And I think, and by the way, I get it. I know it seems like Florida State's being greedy or whiny, and I understand what some fans say, but a school like they cannot recruit and be on par with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Floridas that they need to recruit with, all these things when you're going to be down almost $1 billion at the end of this. Like, that's just, it's not tenable. It's just not.
And that's what we've been reporting for a while. It's common sense, keep it simple, stupid type stuff. It's not like we've had to dig really hard to get data on this over the last year and plus. So, Bob Thompson told us in July last year, that realignment was brands, it was rivalries, it was fan engagement and their passion. And Florida State is tip top on all three of those. So it made no sense that they would turn in and the ESPN would basically kick them to the curb when they were 13-0 and ready to go into the playoff. Immaculate, I know you had a question. Go ahead.
Well, she actually touched upon it. I was going to ask her if there was any word at all about any of these details. You touched upon the big one, the fact that the commissioner basically broke your own bylaws by going ahead and extending that himself. And so you're saying there was no leakage all about that? I mean, we know in places like War Chant and some other FSU communities that you guys kind of had some ideas on things, but was that ever talked about?
No. And here's the other thing that came up from that, the whole press conference or, meeting, video meeting. I'm not going to call it a press conference. I don't really know how else to put it, but I thought it was the fact that nobody has these documents. You travel to North Carolina to get it. They won't let you take pictures of it.
Oh, we lost Jen. Her network cut out.
She's not wrong. Just to cut it.
She's back and
in
forth.
Terms of what they're saying that they didn't have. It was funny to hear because one of the members said these documents have been available on the internet for a while.
Right.
And that's the stuff we have seen and we've been showing people. And at that moment, I was like, wait. We've actually seen more than most of the board of trustees.
I know, that's remarkable. Let's go through some super chats and stuff while Jen's trying to get back to us. Firstly, Daniel Gygax, thank you very much. $4.99 super chat. Says the amount of redacted info in the ACC filing looks like a DOD FOIA release. Freedom of Information Act, Department of Defense, and it does. If you look at it, I'm not going to show it. I've made a decision not to show that document. We're not sure chain of custody. We're not sure that the data's right on it, so we're not going to show it. But yeah, it does. Everything's blued out or grayed out for sure.
They just use black highlighters in the ACC.
Black, okay.
All
right,
Sorry.
You're good.
Sorry, I turned on my do not disturb. I completely forgot when I got on here. Yeah. So the fact that you don't even have these documents is crazy to me. The fact that what else did they say in that? Did anybody else notice where they said you can't even take pictures of the documents? You can't word
they
it.
Were escorted in. You had to be escorted in like you were going into some safety deposit box. A security official from the ACC had to be in there with them.
I think my understanding of that was the multimedia agreement between the ACC and ESPN. So that's like ACC's property, and they won't let anyone else have it. And the Gore is the one that's executed and signed, and they're holding on to that too, which is odd.
And they didn't want him to have it out because the minute it resides at one of the schools, it can then be released by a Freedom of Information Act request by somebody that's a journalist. So there is a reason why they did it. It's just if I was an FSU official and I'm saying the first time the guy says to me, I can't take pictures and I can't really do anything about it, I'd be like, this is a nickel and dime operation. These guys can't even protect their own contract. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, I think other schools honestly should be happy with what we're doing, right? Is my voice, is it messed up again? Is my audio messed up again?
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. So I think that they should actually be happy, because if your address isn't zip code in North Carolina, you should honestly be rethinking the situation. And I know Miami is trying to clown right now. I know, Louisville's upset, Pitt's upset, but guess what, guys? You're getting screwed too, and they don't care about you. Clemson, hello, Clemson.
Right. Who's at home at Clemson? Clemson. This is my argument about Clemson. I think Florida State. I believe there was an opportunity where Florida State could have been the first one out. Sorry, Clemson could have been the first one out, could have secured a home, and wouldn't have been left back. Now that Florida State took that first step, I think Clemson could get left out, like Immaculate mentioned earlier.
I kind of agree. Like, here's what I mean. I don't know if anybody else has heard this, but what I'm hearing is, I think right now, I think Florida State is the lone dancer outside right now. If they go to the Big Ten, they don't need a partner right now. Of course, the Big Ten, if Notre Dame says, hey, we're going, then it's done, right? That's done. I think not next, but I think the other person would be North Carolina, but that's a huge mountain to climb for them. So I think it all depends on what Notre Dame and North Carolina do, right? And I honestly would say if Notre Dame says no and North Carolina decides to go another way, or they don't want to wait for the legislative process and all that stuff, right? I could see it being Georgia Tech if they really wanted to take somebody. And I also think for the SEC, should all this happen and all this shakes out, if North Carolina decides not to do the Big Ten, right, all those things, the SEC's top priorities are North Carolina and Virginia, and I could see them taking NC State and Virginia Tech along with them because of those legislative issues. I don't see the Big Ten taking NC State and Virginia Tech, so that's a huge difference. And then, so where does that leave Clemson? That's where but I just haven't heard anything. So I think, does Clemson have a possibility to get into the Big Ten? I don't know. I'm just not hearing it right now.
Yeah, we're hearing the same things you are. There's no difference there. In other words, the Clemson's undercover, and the fact that they weren't doing this with Florida State, I think is remarkable. Let's get a super chat in here from Chris Hughes, $5. Thank you very much, Chris. It says, what is the thought on ACC filing in Charlotte? This would be the adjudicated in Charlotte, not in Tallahassee. Well, there's two lawsuits. Let's be very clear. Last night, in the secret, dark, late part of the night, the ACC sued Florida State, knowing what was going to happen the next day with the Board of Trustees. The reason they did that is they wanted to make jurisdiction be in North Carolina. Now Florida State files in Tallahassee State, and they're saying they have control of the lawsuit. What are you hearing, Jen, from that side of it? Obviously, there's dueling lawsuits like this all the time.
Yeah. So, well, I'm hearing a couple different things. One, the lawsuit filed by the ACC was based on an action that hadn't happened yet. So that's true. So I don't know how they would be. I'm trying to think of the legal term. I don't know how that actually becomes the priority because they filed something based on something that had not happened yet. It was speculation, which you really legally is wonky, right? But I know they're in North Carolina. I know the North Carolina judicial system, but here's the other issue here. So Florida State's lawsuit is backed by the state of Florida. The Board of Trustees, the BOT at Florida State, are basically employed by the state of Florida, right? You've got the governor, you've got senators, and you've got the attorney general in on this. Unless the ACC is then going to call themselves the state of North Carolina, the jurisdiction falls with the state of Florida.
Right. Immaculate, I know you're chomping at the bit to ask a question. I wanted to take care of a little of a business here first.
Go right ahead.
170 people watching live, or another 30 or 40 on Twitter. Please subscribe, okay? And consider becoming a member of Big 12 Mafia. I'm going to run a video. Everybody can follow how to do that. Give me 1 second, and then we'll get back to business.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
And I want to encourage everybody to turn on your notifications, both on Twitter and on YouTube. And before we go any further, we have a new member. Woo woo! We want to do new members, and Moen wants to do some business with the new member. Go ahead, Moen.
It's a shot for you, Jared OH.
Jared Jones, another he's our next capo level, which is our top level. Thank you so much, Jared. We appreciate you being a part
Welcome
of the
to
family.
the family, Jared.
Ohio State is the bomb for us, okay? I love Ohio State. So I think we're going to go from there. We got Jen back. I'm going to let Immaculate now ask a question. Go ahead, Immaculate.
I don't even know what to ask her. It almost seems kind of like we think exactly the same on things. I'm the GT guy here, and me finding someone else to say that around here has caused it to become a drinking game around here. So be
You
careful.
say Georgia Tech, and
Be careful saying that. Moen's going to start making you drink here, Jen.
Well, okay. Well, I'm not going to say anything then.
I say
Okay.
Georgia Tech just so I can get him drunk. That's all I'm trying to do.
Before you were with us, I was actually saying if the better Florida State does in this, and the more they can get that price tag down, the better it is for a Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
The better this goes for the ACC, and the higher that price tag to get out is, the better it is for Clemson. That's kind of my stance. If the price tag's too high, I think Clemson sneaks out with Florida State. I think the fact that this is Florida State going first, I think it means Clemson's not quite getting the same vibe from, say, the Big Ten and the SEC as Florida State's getting from the Big Ten.
Yeah. So I really, honestly, I'm having a hard time with thinking that the SEC would let Clemson not come there. Florida State not going to the SEC seems like you could get like a Georgia, an Auburn, a Florida to all object, right? Because that's right in their wheelhouse.
Right.
I just don't see South Carolina as being that prominent of a member to be able to be like, yeah. And I don't see those same teams having an issue with Clemson. But again, it goes back to the fact that the SEC is coveting North Carolina and Virginia. Right. Those are the only ones they really want. And they have to take those other two schools with them, maybe, or those other two schools could break away, but that's a really long process. So unless something is negotiated with those other two schools to go to have a soft landing, say in the Big 12 or something, that's where I'm stuck. So I feel for Clemson. I really do. But I'm with you. They should have maybe been the big dogs barking too. Right. They weren't. Everybody allowed Florida State to be the villain, which we don't mind doing. We actually enjoy it. It's fun for us. We love to do it. We love to be the jerks on Twitter. We love to do all of the things. So that's fine. I think I said earlier, I consider the ACC like the UN, right? And they look at Florida State as the Americans that go in and do everyone's dirty work. And then they will criticize us while holding our coats and telling us great job and allowing us to fund it. That's what I'm saying. And again, like Clemson funds things too. North Carolina funds things too. But when it comes to ratings, eyeballs, merchandise,
the
we know the deal.
The math isn't really good for Clemson when it comes to the SEC. Like if they have to take all 4 of those Virginia, North Carolina schools, what are they going to do? Go to 21?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
It's tough.
It just doesn't make any sense. Let's get this super chat in here, Immaculate. This is for you. This is a question for you. Did the ACC commissioner have the authority granted to him by the ACC members to extend the agreement?
I mean, according to Florida State, he didn't.
Yeah, they're saying the bylaws mean that it has to be a 2/3 vote of presidents. And so when you look at that, you think, okay, so was he fearful that a third of the presidents would have forced for that to be decided at that point in time? That's a lot of dissension within the conference that for him to fear that.
But who are you talking to, Immaculate? I'm sorry.
Just putting that out there that if
okay.
the bylaws stated that it would have been a 2/3 vote required for him to make that
they were
amendment.
never going to get that. That's why he did it. They
But
were
that's
never going to get that.
That's basically a lot. That's saying a third of your conference would have forced ESPN to decide in 2021, still kind of feeling the end of the pandemic and everything going on there. The economy was still.
Yeah, but the timing is perfect because that's Oklahoma and Texas.
I understand, but he thought that that many of his presidents would have made the decision that he didn't think was the good one.
Right.
That he risked going around the bylaws, and
that's
a lot. Like it's not just like 3. I mean, we're talking like it would have been 5 of them.
Well, and we know 7 schools met in the summer, or I guess is maybe late spring. And in August, Greg Flugaur, right, the guy who's been leading this from the beginning, he said on May 8th, I believe, there was a chance something could have happened then.
Yeah.
So the fact that it didn't is significant. Now where we are is right now. Coy for $2 super chat says, "Keep up the good work and good to see you on here, Jen." There you go, Jen. In the hat. I very much appreciate that. We do have a new member, and I know this is big for Moen. Go, Moen, go. New member, Coy. Thank you for being here, Coy. He's a new soldier for us. And then the last one I'm going to get to on this turn is our web. Super chat for $5 says, "This will be a repeat of ACC suing Maryland in North Carolina and UMD suing in Maryland." I'm lost there. Do you guys understand what he's saying?
Yeah, that happened when Maryland left the ACC
in 2012.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar thing. The ACC tried to get ahead of it. And
force it saying it'll end up in Tallahassee. That's his point. I was lost there for a minute. Yeah, okay.
I have a long answer from Bodie to look on that as well. I've been getting some answers from some lawyers on X about it, and he doesn't think that it's going to end up in North Carolina. And my question that I put out was, can you sue for something that has not happened yet? And I mean, that's a very basic question.
Right.
It simplifies this much more so than it probably really is. But just as a thought, like that's basically what they did.
Defensively.
But it hadn't happened yet, because I know from doing my own filings at court is that it's dated, it's timed, and that matters. Right. So they essentially would have had a dated and timed filing at the court before anything would have happened that was viable by that. So I don't know if it doesn't just get tossed out completely. And then when you see how redacted it was kind of weird.
Adam Ontiveros, I want to say that he's a new member. He has gifted a membership. Moen, tell everybody what the gifting of memberships is.
Gifting of memberships is you can gift memberships to the channel. Just go to the lower right-hand corner and click the cash sign. The third option, gift memberships. You can gift 1, 5, 10, or 25.
Thank you very much, Adam. Go ahead.
What is Moen's drinking? And how do I become friends with him? Because it seems like a lot of fun.
We drink Crown Royal around here. We're real Appalachian WT Whiskey
and-
Tango here. We drink Crown.
Jen, he's drinking that straight too. It's not cut.
All right. Now,
Right
is
out of
it
the bottle.
cold or do you drink it hot?
I drink it
That's-
both. I start
right.
off cold, and then once I get the cold down, then I just go straight. Don't let
I
the
love
water
it.
cut it.
C. Black, who looks like he's got a Florida State tag next to his name, says, I was shocked the ACC is trying to charge FSU until 2036 when it's not guaranteed by ESPN. ESPN can opt out in 2027. What was your first thought when you saw that whole deal with 2027?
One, I wanted to cheer really loud because we kind of knew that this thing was wonky.
Right.
The fact that they actually got a hold of that information and was able to do it, this seems like they will get out of this grant of rights. I don't know how you can tell me that a judge is going to say, okay, you owe it till 2036, when clearly in the documents it says ESPN. I think they're going to end up having to pay it till 2027 or 2026, whichever it is, right? Because legally, I don't think you can get around that. I just don't.
Robert Laster says, Jen, we love you. Go Knowles. And then
Thanks,
I think
guys.
there's a chop in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's our little. Some people say they're shish kebabs. We call them spears. We're gonna call them spears.
They look like it. Let's see. We got another super chat. Dang, you need to come more often because we're getting a ton of money because you're here.
I look anytime, guys. Anytime, I will do it. I will do it. I'm very happy to be here.
Sergeant Pickles, a new member of the Big Ten with University of Washington, says, Nate, remember the honor code. I volunteer to drink in your stead. He's talking about my honor code. Have a refreshing Pacific Northwest Classic Rainier beer. For those that aren't familiar, Rainier beer is a regional beer in the state of Washington. It's really big, brewery right off the interstate, and it's an institution. So that's what he's referring to there. Go ahead and drink all you want for me, Pickles. I appreciate that.
I got a bunch of money too.
Oh, I like money. Yeah, I like money though.
Jen, this is the first time on the show. We're going to do this again. I'm not going to let you get away from us now that we're doing this. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. Like, what are y'all's thoughts? When do you think this gets announced? Do you think Florida State plays in the ACC in 2025?
Immaculate.
Good question. How did I know that was coming to me first? Well, it's in Tallahassee is where it's been filed. It's in their hometown. I don't think it's going to take very long to get that through the court. It's got a feeling that that runway has been greased down and ready for them to take off. It's considering they've already kind of pre-filed and given their withdrawal, they're ready to go. So if this all goes as fast as I think it's going to go, I think that they want to be there. This could become their last year in the ACC.
Moen.
Yeah, this is their last year in the ACC. Next year, they're going to be at Ohio State, playing Ohio State.
There we go.
Bring it on.
I love it.
I can't wait.
I love it. I agree. I think this is the end. In the words, I want to make sure I get this quote right because I wrote it down this morning. The fateful words of Taylor Swift, we are never, 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 ever getting back together. And that would be Florida State. Jen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
I really
you, guys.
appreciate it.
I apologize. Yeah, I apologize. My internet has been a little wonky. I'm sorry, but yeah, anytime. I'd love it. Thank you guys so much for thinking of me. And I'm a big fan, so thank you guys.
What are you a
Thanks,
fan
Jen.
of? I'm just curious. Tell everybody else why you're a fan of us.
I just love all y'all's comments on conference realignment. It's so interesting. You know, I kind of got it from the Flugaur show, and then I kind of moved over this way, and I just love it. I've been sending it around to people. So, you know.
Appreciate it. Yep. That's a similar story. We all kind of started up with Flugaur, and we're still Flugaurians, Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, but we have a lot of fun, and a lot of fun having you on there, and good views, too. Like I said, we kind of seem to see the same. So I look forward to having you back again sometime.
It's hard to
Thank
resist.
you.
It's hard to resist pretty girls on the internet. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You're very
And-
welcome. You have a great night. Merry Christmas, and I will talk to you
Merry
on
Christmas,
Tuesday.
guys. Okay,
Thanks,
absolutely. Thank you.
Take
All
care.
right,
Bye,
see you
guys.
later. Bye bye. Oh, brother.
That was a surprise. I didn't even see that one coming.
I wanted it to be
You
a
shocked
surprise.
it.
I
Yeah.
wanted you guys to be shocked.
I was like-
I'm working on the back end here. I spent the
Me
last
too.
two days. I've slept 4 hours, and I cannot tell you how much fun I am having right now.
Oh,
This is-
we've been
know,
grinding for this day. And once again, to the folks who are worried, having, anxiety and overall this, it's not meant to, be light on that, but we're going to be going through some hard times, and this stuff is all necessary. So, and we've been building up for this, and so it does kind of feel like we're almost relieved. Like, okay, here we go.
Well,
There-
and I think I don't normally do this, but let's take a victory lap, guys. For 8 months, we have been working as a team. For 18 months, we have been working underneath Greg Flugaur and Peek Around the Corner. And all of us, Greg, the list, Coos, Jason Watkins, there's so many. The list, I need to do a show just on the people that have been helping us with this. And all of us, common sense wins, and we just followed the breadcrumbs. We did it for Colorado first, then we did it for the Four Corners, and now we're doing it for the ACC. And we are promoting Washington State and Oregon State. Now their stuff is settled. We are in front of all of this, and it's not because we're super smart. It's because we're paying attention.
You're dead on, and I kind of remember at times calling in with Greg while the pack was still building up towards that happening, and I was saying, keep an eye on the ACC, keep an eye on the ACC, and it was,
Right.
at that point in time, people weren't quite ready for it yet, and it's just interesting. I think one of the things that interests me the most in realignment talk is kind of bringing things out in advance, seeing how people react to it, and then once those things start to happen, just watching the change. There's like a full spectrum change in the mentality of people when they're looking at this stuff. So we're at another one of those inflection points where when this happened, people's minds have changed.
We're going to get into some comments, and this is where you can be part of the show. We first go to members. They're highlighted in the comment section with green. They have special icons next to their names. That's what the paid memberships is about, and we encourage everybody to do that. We encourage everybody. It's Christmas season. Give a gift of a month membership. This is how we build a community, and we're not doing this for our own sakes. We're not making millions of dollars on this, people. We're doing the work so that you can hear all the information. We're doing the work for you, in essence, and we just continue to grow bigger and bigger. I like this question right here because I think this is where some of these other dominoes. First, what did we tell everybody? We predicted the future. We told everybody once the Pac-12 fell apart, watch Washington State and Oregon State, watch the Pac-2. That went. The very next thing we said is watch ACC, watch Florida State.
Mhm.
That went. Now the next step is, what does Notre Dame do? They're the next one that really has to make a decision here because as Notre Dame goes, the ACC goes. So right now in Bristol, Connecticut, ESPN is circling the wagons and they're saying, what do we need to do to keep Notre Dame in the ACC? Because the minute Notre Dame leaves, Pitt is gone, Virginia's gone, North Carolina's gone, and it's over. So that's where we're at. This question is awesome because it says, Spitfire the Dragon, TV of love and positive light. I love the name. Says, what about Boise State? I wanted them in the Big 12 for some years now. How far down the road are we looking at a reorganization of other schools potentially into some of these conferences?
You want to kick that one off, Moen?
Yeah, well, there's no way Boise State's going to be in there. There's too much good stuff to eat at the buffet of the ACC for them to pick around at Boise State. Nothing against Boise State, but they're not on the same level as a Virginia, North Carolina State, Pitt, Syracuse. They're a lot like Clemson is now. They're all dependent on their college football coach and how well they're doing at college football.
My personal opinion on that, we've talked about it a little bit, we've alluded to this coming in the future, is that there will be a G5 consolidation round. I do not think that happens until after a lot of the drama fills out with the NCAA. Once they figure out what the new model is going to be, where governance is going to go, if say the autonomous conferences take over a bunch of the Division I, create some new rules, that could create the atmosphere then for movement. So, but for right now, I think Boise State's where they're going to be for a little while. I think the Big 12 is mostly looking eastward.
Give me 1 second. Greg Flugaur has entered our stage. We don't have a stage. Greg has a stage, but I'm giving him a footing onto our stage, which is part of the Mafia. Hey guys, we're going to call Greg Flugaur a capo, right? He's one of us. Greg, I put that link in there. Join us and let's go.
He's a friend of ours.
I thought he was the Godfather.
He is the Godfather. The true Godfather is Bob Thompson, but I would say he might be a 5 families. We could start that. Greg, you're not quite connected. I can't see your mics there. I'm going to wait for Greg to connect. Maybe redo it or something. While I'm waiting for Greg to connect, Hall of Fame college football, Jason Watkins, I was on his show earlier today, just before the show. I appreciate it. $5. Very much, Jason. He says, you guys are great. Take your victory lap. Thanks for always giving people the truth about what is happening with these crooked leagues and networks. Jason, I tip my hat to you. Thank you so much. You're a great partner. You were one of the guys that helped me get started, and I'm willing to do anything for you. All right, here we go, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, how you doing, Immaculate Nathan? Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
I come in mowing leaves. Typical.
I don't know what happened. He just
look,
off.
The Buckeyes are always scared of the Golden Gophers. I mean, that's just the way it is. Jen leaves because the Seminoles are going to be scared of the Golden Gophers when Florida State comes into Minneapolis, favored by 24.5 points. But they're still going to be scared.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to make Florida State come up there in November or December.
Yeah, that's what I put in the chat.
Yeah.
Florida State's still going to be favored by 24.5. But anyways, or more. Yeah, when Jen came onto the panel, everything sort of elevated. The intelligence,
it did, didn't it?
The intelligence, just everything kind of, I don't know. The chemistry got a lot better. Just, yeah, she's awesome.
Chat was sure lively.
Yeah, get Jen back on again.
Absolutely.
What was I gonna say?
But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to make 2 points, and then I'll be quiet. One is, did you notice when Jim Phillips, that letter, the co-chairman of the ACC, Jim Ryan, was part of that, and he's the president of Virginia. So, I mean, he's in a tough spot, right? But he was on that Jim Phillips response. And we all know that Virginia is all tangled up with Virginia Tech. They are a long ways away from following Florida State's path. But just to keep an eye on that.
That is interesting.
Yeah. And, and of course, we haven't made it. We've been pretty out there, peek around the corner when it comes to Clemson, right?
You're an advocate for Clemson to the Big Ten.
I'm not an advocate. I'm not. I only relay what I guess you could call it that, but I'm not. I'm not.
I'm not saying you're cheering for him. I'm saying you're reporting on it.
Well, it's what we hear.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what
because I can say this, like, Ira Schaffel, I can't pronounce his last name. The Florida State beat writer.
Warchant?
No, but how do you pronounce his last name?
I don't know who he is.
Schofield or
whatever. He put out a tweet. He put out a tweet, I don't know, about an hour ago saying the original plan was to go early in 2024 with what Florida State just did.
Right.
Now, we had heard that all the way back on December 26, 2022. That's what we reported, but it got sped up because of the snub. Okay. Well, I can tell you, all that information that came from our money perch and all this, Florida State, all that is entangled with the same information we're getting from the Clemson stuff. So I'm sitting here going, is really Clemson not going to follow Florida State in what just Florida State just did? And again, I poke and prod and everything, and the same thing comes back. Clemson is going to follow Florida State.
So why didn't they come out and do it today? Why didn't they do a joint statement?
It was never. So a couple months ago, we got some really definite stuff about Clemson, and we even put out a date range, which is crazy. But we put out a date range that Clemson was going to put their declare their statement, just like Florida State did. But it was going to be between like the third week of January 20th and February 6th. It was a range, right? And that hasn't stopped. That hasn't changed. That hasn't. So from my perspective, none of that has changed. Now, but let's say it doesn't matter. I got a question for all three of you and the people in the chat, whatever. So let's say Clemson or whoever, Clemson, North Carolina, but let's keep it just Clemson, North Carolina for now. When is the winter meeting? When is the spring meetings? When is, they can't keep silent forever. They got to say something at some point. They don't have to say anything the rest of this year. They don't have to say probably something, most of January. But at some point, there's going to be a microphone. They're going to have to stand up. They're going to have to answer some questions from the local newspaper, sports. You can't stay silent on this forever. So if you're like a Clemson or North Carolina, and how do you proceed in communicating what Florida State just did? What do you say? What opinions do you say? I think that is very interesting, and I think that's going to tip the hand of what's going on behind the curtains when it comes to North Carolina and Clemson. I just want to hear what you guys think about that. How do they can't stay silent, forever?
Moen.
What was the question?
Oh my God.
I might be a little drunk, guys.
No, that's fine.
You want me to jump on that one?
Yeah, go ahead, Immaculate.
Go ahead, Immaculate.
I got two different feelings on this in terms of what happens with the other schools after this movement by Florida State. Hint, Owen. We're looking. I think Clemson's advantage is to be out in front of this, to get out as soon, because say this comes through, the money value that it takes to get out gets much lower. That starts to open doors for other schools. But Clemson coming out now and getting out now, they could probably afford this better than others. And so I think it behooves them, the higher the price of exit, the better chance that they get a good landing spot, say like with the Big Ten. As far as the rest, I think they're watching. I think they're watching what happens in Tallahassee now in court. I was thinking if they're watching if some precedent is set for exit. And then once that's known, then we might start to see them come out. Because as you're saying, eventually there are going to be press conferences. There are going to be media days and different things and what they're going to get asked questions. We saw that with the Pac. They got hammered at those media days. But I think that they have some time. And I think that the courts in Tallahassee will probably pick this up sooner rather than later.
My opinion is, Greg, you know me, I'm a hands in the dirt guy. I'm not way up here with lofty reasons. I just go to the quickest and simplest answers, and common sense at the end of the day is going to rule this. If they decide as a group, the ACC will hold an emergency meeting, whether it's announced or not announced. They're going to talk and they're going to say, how are we going to fight back against this? Because we have to stay united. Notre Dame has a choice at that point. They're going to have to decide whether they're going to stick and be the banner carrier for this conference that now is going to lose one of its tent poles. So Notre Dame has a choice. And then the schools that have options that think that they might have landing places in these other conferences are going to have to decide, are they willing to take the risk without a guarantee? Because I think right now, Florida State and Notre Dame are the only two that have guaranteed spots. You might disagree with me, but that's my opinion. And I think their messaging is going to be, for one thing, as Bob Thompson said today, how about you sign that extension? How about you sign the extension for the media values from 2027 to 2036? Bob Thompson said if they're not doing that today, if that didn't happen by midnight tonight, he said people should be fired. So that thing is ridiculous in the first place.
Yeah.
It's so broken on their end. And then the other side of it is the PR loss. The ACC is getting crushed right now online. They have to do something. I do believe that they're going to, besides the pushback with that one statement they put out today, that 3-paragraph statement that was so vanilla, had no teeth to it. Yeah, we're together. We create value for our members. No, you don't. You just got left out of the college football playoff and you were undefeated. Your champion got left on the side of the road. So they're going to have to do something from a PR standpoint. So that's where I come down on it.
I got another question. Mullen?
I'm paying attention this time.
Are you with me, brother? Okay.
Don't say Georgia Tech, Greg.
So my next question is, as we batted this around over the last 10 months, there was a feeling, and I still think there's a feeling. I got a feeling that there is there is strength in numbers in this. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's just say Clemson does come in, right? In the next, let's say it's the first week of January, whatever that is, and does basically the same thing Florida State does. They announce this. It gets to a county in South Carolina. I don't know what that county is. Mecklenburg, where is Clemson? What county? Don't know. But whatever county that is. And now what the ACC is going to have to respond to sue back the board of trustees of the board of regents of Clemson, right? Now you've got 2 dual fights going on and everything. Wouldn't Clemson coming up in doing this relatively soon, wouldn't that maybe possibly, even though they're 2 separate things, maybe they get conjoined later, wouldn't that sort of help the schools that want to leave the ACC? Wouldn't that help Florida State a little bit?
Immaculate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Bowen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, look, there's strength in numbers, and it goes to the domino position. As soon as one domino falls, another domino falls, 2 more dominoes fall, 3 more dominoes fall, 4 more dominoes fall. The late Henry Kissinger called this trilateral diplomacy, the domino effect for communism in Southeast Asia. It's the same thing. If you've got one falling and it makes another fall, it'll make 2 fall. Those 2 falling will make 3 fall. Those 3 falling will make 5 fall. So definitely, I think Clemson has to come out at some point within the next 2 to 3 weeks and release a statement saying they're following the same train of thought.
And I'll break in before Immaculate answers this question because let's flip the coin a little bit. An indication of the information we have received on Clemson, an indication that would be incorrect, in my opinion, would be if Clemson did not come out in the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, right? If Clemson doesn't come out and follow this up, and we think they're going to, I mean, they have done the work. Forget about everything I've said. Think about the Clemson has hired a consulting firm 9 months ago. I mean, they've done the work. They've done what Florida State has done. If they don't come out in the next 3, 4, or 5 weeks, Immaculate, do you think that's an indication that maybe Clemson did not get the positive? We think they did, but that's an indication that Clemson did not get the positive feedback, third-party positive feedback that Florida State no doubt has received.
You led me into that perfectly. That's exactly what I was said. That's why I'm interested right now to see what they do, because I think, everything that they may have done to prepare for it in the past, put aside, in the end, it's the action that matters. And if they do not come out then it tells me they do not have someone saying, yeah, we'll take you. That's the only difference to me in my mind between Florida State and Clemson is if Florida State comes out and Clemson does not, then it means Florida State does have a yes from somebody, but Clemson probably does not.
My answer to that is, again, keep it simple, stupid. I don't think there is. In my opinion, they knew Florida State was going to do this eventually. The minute they got left out of the college football playoff, Clemson should have called Florida State and said, hey, let's go. Let's do this. You guys just got screwed. By extension, we got screwed. Let's do this together. The fact that they didn't tells me Clemson does not have a guaranteed landing spot.
It would have been more powerful. I mean, this was already powerful, but FSU and Clemson coming out together is just that's a full decapitation.
And it makes it stronger, right? The more
just
people
like
that go
Texas,
with you,
Oklahoma, USC, UCLA,
everything. Yep.
And can I ask one more question? I'm sorry, I just got questions because I've been on the phone all day, and trust me,
you didn't call me.
No, I mean, yeah, but I mean, people we talk,
I know, important people.
And and they all have questions. I mean,
I know.
We don't have a crystal ball here, right? We just give a peek around the corner. There is this thing could go any which way. My next question, and thank you, Nathan, for letting me come on. Imo and Immaculate, thank you for letting me come on to ask these questions. Notre Dame. Okay, let's get into Notre Dame.
Hang on. Before you do that, let me get a super chat up here from Ryan Thomas. He said Notre Dame. Now I was waiting for somebody to say that. He says the question is not how to keep Notre Dame in the ACC. It's how to keep Notre Dame content on ESPN. Scheduling agreements with SEC or Big 12 do that. All right, go ahead. Thank you very much, Ryan.
That's a great point by Ryan Thomas. What was my question again? Jeez, I'm getting old. Oh, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Yeah. So now they signed this agreement with NBC, this media deal. We don't know anything about it. We don't know the money. We basically know nothing about it other than they signed the deal.
We still don't know the money. Yeah.
We know diddly on it. So
we know one thing.
Yeah.
We know they have to do that silly little reality show.
Okay. Yes.
That's the one thing we know.
Yes. So I just got questions. I have no answers. Did NBC get into a deal with Notre Dame that had some clauses in it, some provisions in it? NBC, because they're part of the big, these guys know that there's instability in the ACC. Was there any provisions in that agreement that says, if the ACC implodes, loses their top brands, Notre Dame's scheduling agreement now won't include a Florida State and North Carolina, Clemson, whatever? Does that get that deal null and void if there's provisions, or does it de-escalate the money that's involved and everything? I got to think. I don't know. I'm just asking you all. Does that alter the deal between NBC and Notre Dame?
I think it likely means that NBC would allow them to be moved over into the Big Ten with the provision that they get first pick on Notre Dame games for that 5-year period until 29.
Yes.
Because otherwise, Fox.
Immaculate.
Yeah, that's the answer. That's the exact
answer.
I still don't think actually that Notre Dame. I think that they want to be in the ACC and they want to rebuild it as something else. But if that doesn't work, they are in a position to easily move into the Big Ten with NBC's help, and NBC will have first dibs on them versus everyone else Fox has first dibs on.
Greg, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You brought up Notre Dame. Moen's favorite subject is Notre Dame. We do rants on Notre Dame. Everybody makes fun of Notre Dame, but they're still Notre Dame. If they had gone undefeated today, would they be in the CFP?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the fact that Florida State wasn't
shows
they're not peers. So this is all about the perception. The money is a marker. The contracts are the binding, right? The glue.
Mm-hmm.
But really what this is about is, are you a real program or not? And are you relevant or not? Mm-hmm. That's what this fight is about. Clemson is on the outside looking in. I know there's a lot of indicators, but I have not seen one thing that says they have a place to go, and Notre Dame, we all know, does. That's it.
Did you guys see? I think it was that 38-page Florida State.
Right.
They show the Notre
we
Dame
went through
payout.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty good. I mean, that's
What was the number, Greg?
Well, in 2026, 2027, Notre Dame would be getting paid through ACC payouts of close to 23 million.
Just for the ACC games.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Well, ACC network
Okay.
and all that. So that's only $10 million less than Florida State would get.
Right.
Right. And they're tier 1, tier 2 ACC. They're like Florida State is projected they only get like 37 million in 2026. That's okay. I guess it's more than my Minnesota math. That's like $14 million less. Man, that's boy, Notre Dame gets treated way better than Florida State and everybody else. Holy smokes.
They do have the second-rated fan base in all of college football behind Ohio State, and it shows when this happens. But Florida State's still pretty high in that, so it is rather shocking to see them get treated like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to send an invitation to join the show to VC Knoll. That would be Vince representing the great state of Florida. Greg, if you want to join us, Vince, click on that link. You can join the show, and we'll talk more Florida State stuff. Where do we go now? Christmas is in 3-4 days. Obviously, there's normally a break between now and the end of the year. And Greg already sort of asked the question about what is next for the announcements and when they get together and what they organize. At the end of the day, is it fait accompli that Florida State is done by August 2024? And if so, if that's done and we just take that for granted, then what does that then do? What flexibility does that give to the Big 12? Because I'm thinking right now, Brett Yormark has to be just ecstatic. He has to just be celebrating and doing everything he can in those offices in Dallas. Where does the Big 12 go next?
I think they got to wait, right? I mean, they got to see how it plays out before them. But yeah, they're in the catbird seat. And I know you guys have mentioned this before, but that Big 12 ACC merger stuff that was never going on.
Right, and we never believed in it.
Yeah,
that was not here.
Yeah, before today I would have said, and I have been saying, Florida State and a few others looks pretty good for 2026. Looks really good for 2027. I think the chances of Florida State being in another conference, the Big Ten, in 2025, I think the percentage is skyrocketed today based on the information that we received, and so a couple of nuclear bombs in there. I think Florida State, the chances of them being in a different conference in 2025, for me, for my personal, it's skyrocketed today. But again, I'm in the minority, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. My eyes and the people that we talk to, we're all looking at Clemson right now because, Mullen used, what did Mullen use? Henry Kissinger or something? What kind of example?
Henry Kissinger, trilateral diplomacy.
Yeah, that diplomacy. Well, there's also a thing where, you get your guys ready, right? You get your guys ready in the military, and it's a go or no go type of situation, right? You only can stay static for so long. And Clemson has done a whole lot of stuff, and they've continued to do a whole lot of stuff, and that's going to come out here. And it has come out somewhat. And did they do all this stuff? Or they continue to do all this stuff not to do anything after Florida State has taken this action? I don't think so. So that's what my eyes are on Clemson.
So do you Mac, you have a question?
No, go right ahead, man. I
I
think
was just going to say, do you think Florida State gets a full share right away, or do they get in on the same model that Washington and Oregon got in?
Are you asking me or?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
I'm asking all of you actually.
Now, according to Brett McMurphy, starting on July 1st, 2024, within the new ESPN deal with the deal between ESPN and the SEC, there is pro rata, right? There is a pro rata clause in the new contract starting July 1st, 2024.
But that's the
Or,
SEC though. That's
yeah. But I'm not going to completely take the SEC off the board when it comes to Florida State. I do think it's a heavy chalk, a heavy favorite that Florida State does go to the Big Ten.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to compare the two, right? Big Ten, and SEC. So the SEC has a pro rata clause. The Big Ten does not. So I don't know if Florida State would get a full share. And maybe it wouldn't even matter to Florida State, if one offered a full share and the other one offered 75%, maybe Florida State would still go to the Big Ten. But you know what? If Notre Dame went with Florida State, yeah, Florida State would get the full share because Notre Dame is already in the Big Ten contract. Right. Their name is already in the current Big Ten contract. Everybody's ships are going to go up. The waters are going to raise everybody up if Notre Dame comes in. And that includes a Florida State, that includes a Washington, that includes an Oregon. So Florida State, if they're probably all, Big Ten number 19, right? They're hoping that Notre Dame's at 20th school. Would a full share? I mean, look, the media market is a little tight right now. It's still tight, right? Yeah. Fox came in with a full share of Washington and Oregon, and they're splitting the share basically. Florida State, no offense to Oregon and Washington, Florida State is more valuable to the Big Ten. Okay. So everything being even, Florida State would get more. Is it a full share? It could be, possibly. I don't know.
Perfect. If I could go in right after that. I wanted to tie in the two theaters. What happened with Oregon and Washington, I remember Petiti saying something about how it's not a shocker or surprise that they've become the Big Ten. It was just a matter of timing. I think that they've been looking at Washington to join for a while. They were just going to have it happen later. I think most folks thought the pact was going to last another 3 years, maybe 5 years, and then they could pick that up. When people look at the Washington Oregon payout, I think they think that it means that there's no money left. I don't agree with that. What I think happened was they had to take Washington, Oregon much sooner than possible, but they knew they had other ideas in mind, so they needed to save as much money for that as is possible. I think there might be more money for FSU available than we realize. On their own, I think they might actually get a full share simply because of what they're doing and some of the costs involved with that. I mean, they're making a whole lot possible.
That's a great point.
Now, if they were to go in with like a Georgia Tech, where the Big Ten's going to look at that and say our value with them is not in the front end with the network stuff, but on the back end with the university stuff, Florida State might have to work out some deal in that regard. Maybe they don't take a full 100% pay, but I don't think that they're going to be doing a Washington Oregon deal. I think there'll be more money for them than that. I mean, what they're doing is just it's too important to give them that.
Great point.
Owen, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, Florida State gets a full share right away.
That's my leaning. Yeah,
they just bring too much to the table not to give them a full share. Recruiting, market, way too much not to give them a full share.
Yeah, if Florida State said they wanted Georgia Tech, and it's like their call, then they might give up a little bit to help make that happen. I don't know. That's a personal choice of theirs. But I normally on their own, I would say full share as well.
I saw this comment and I wanted to bring it up because Greg is here. Pat Killer says, I found out about Big 12 Mafia, Flugaur, and Watkins through Swaim and have been hooked for about a year. I want to ask Greg, how do you feel about what has been fostered from you breaking the USC UCLA news?
I guess what was the question?
I'm asking, how do you feel about all of us doing shows following what you pioneered?
Oh, I don't think you guys are following me.
Oh,
no. Well, you guys are brilliant. I mean, you guys are smart. I'm just a fat guy from Minnesota.
Oh, stop
spouting
it.
off in Minnesota.
Nobody believes that.
Well, no, it's look, I appreciate the kind words and everything, and I get a lot of kind words on, a lot of people have reached out to me and everything, and I appreciate it. But you guys, we're all different, right? You guys are bringing it, and you guys bring a different flavor, different perspectives. I think it's fantastic. I love these panel shows. I couldn't do those. I can't, but you guys are doing great. There's a lot of YouTube, college football YouTube stuff. It's fantastic because there's all different type of flavors. We all got different ears, right? So we got different voices to listen to. So I appreciate the kind words, but you guys are really taking it, and you guys are taking it and running with it. And now, did I think, because I've had like a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with the person who interviewed us at a newspaper in Los Angeles. And they asked me, did you think it was going to go and do all this stuff when we started? And I said, nope. I thought we would shut down in about a month after we started. So, so
you didn't know that you were going to be doing work longer than a couple weeks. Is what
yeah.
you're saying.
So, and of course I love talking about everything college football. Right. So you guys. So, but, and again, you know what though? This is just the beginning. There's going to be so many changes. It's going to continue to happen. Some of it's going to hurt really, really bad. Some of it already has hurt a lot for a lot of people. So we're just riding this wild tiger. We don't know where it's going. We're just on for the ride, and we'll see what happens.
I want to definitely tip my hat. Bo Stacker reminds us, Golden Blue Dude was outrageous, but he was an OG as well in conference realignment. That is absolutely true. I didn't mean to leave him out. I just happen to have Greg on the show with us right now. Yeah. Hey, Greg, I'm going to show a couple quotes from tweets, actually, from Bob Thompson. Yeah. And then I'm going to ask you for your comments on it. The first one is, can't believe the ACC agreed to this, meaning the contract of the ACC. They must have wanted the ACC network very badly. And then references Nicole Arbach's great article this morning. And then he also replies to his own tweet by saying, some steam rising out of Bristol over the public reveal of the terms of their agreement. Once everybody saw that agreement, and again, I'm not going to display it because I cannot track where that agreement came from on the internet, but how shocking were some of those terms in that agreement as far as you were concerned? I was absolutely blown away. Yeah, I'm still suffering from whiplash. I think we all are. Immaculate. Thank goodness Immaculate called. You called, Nathan, because I was struggling a bit there. I was shocked. I could not believe. I mean, I'm not even sure how it works. I play a pretend lawyer on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure how it even works. How can you have schools, Florida State, that are tied to the ACC Gore, the grant of rights, where their individual rights are tied to the grant of rights? ACC owns them, and you have all these penalties, everything lined up in the ACC bylaws and the grant of rights stuff between whatever. And at the same time, all the way to 2036, and at the same time, ESPN can walk away from the deal in 2027. I don't even know if that's possible. I think if that is true, I think that gives the Florida State I think that is an actual right now a gift to them, because they're going to use that. That is how I feel about it. That's why the odds of Florida State being able to get into a new conference by 2025, I think that is skyrocketed because of that nuclear bomb. And boy, Florida State's been hanging on to that. They didn't say that in their summer, right, in August, right? July, August. They didn't let that go. They didn't let that slip. They brought it today.
That's got to mean something. Now, I got a question. Again, I just have questions. I have no answers. Does Clemson, did North Carolina, did the other schools know that? Did they know that? They probably do, don't they?
I would bet that they do, of course.
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Why
Well,
wouldn't
they know
Florida
now.
State? Why wouldn't they
Yeah.
share that knowledge?
They've all kept it tight-lipped. I don't know. I
would say at least Clemson and North Carolina know.
Yeah. So I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Immaculate. Do you want to answer that?
Which part? Which whole thing in that? Because personally, I was blown away when I saw the part where basically the commissioner broke his own rules, broke his own bylaws.
Right. That was ridiculous.
And we went into that earlier. And if I had to talk about ridiculous, that
was so dumb.
it still feels like, is that real? Did he really do that? Did he?
Right.
Like to think that would never get called out. That's how much faith they had in the Gore, that he could pull some stuff like that. I mean, that right there could cost him everything. You can't say you have to follow these bylaws when you yourself don't follow them. To a court of law, I think that alone right there could get Florida State out. It's that big. It's a small detail, but it's big.
It's big. Or at least have all the penalties and everything eliminated from 2027 going forward, right? So there's only like 4 years of penalty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, then there's moving pieces too, because the contract says they have to have 15 teams. So now Florida State leaves. They reconstitute with Tulane and Memphis if Clemson and say UNC go along. Now all of a sudden, is the ACC really, honestly, an AQ conference? Because in my opinion, I'm nobody listens to me. In my opinion, that is not an AQ conference.
The ACC, after you lose how many schools?
3. Pick your 3. Florida State's one of them. I don't care about the other 2.
I mean, yeah, AQ or AC. Yeah, I still think it is.
AQ, an A conference, an auto qualifier, gonna be in with the big money at the top of the day with Big 12, Big 10, and SEC.
Borderline, man. Borderline.
No,
you're right. Yeah. I definitely think that that contract as it is does not remain if you lose the top end. It's just like with USC and UCLA. That right there hit the pack and cost them a lot. So
that was it. It was over at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. I think that they could have gotten themselves a small deal, but they were not willing to take that. So it's the same situation. People used to talk about the 15-team clause. Look, we've seen so much come out of this. I don't care about that anymore. Like this whole thing is probably going to have to be rewritten after this is all said and done. So
2026 is 3 years away. They're currently rewriting it now. That's why the time matters. That's why August 2024 is a marker. We all know that. Florida State has to have this wrapped up by August. And and going along with that, I think other schools want to do that too.
Yeah, I think that they might get a settlement, because you have to look at this and say there's significant risk that court's going to come back and just clear them.
Yeah, what if they nullify the contract?
You can say it's unenforceable.
Yeah, you could say the Gore could disappear.
To hold them to such a level to get out, whereas the other partner on the other side could just pull out, with no loss. And that was already part of the contract, and that was moved without presidents having to say. It's just astonishing. I would have never thought that they could get out free and clear. I was like, well, they'll get down to a settled amount. The ACC might want to settle soon and quick, is what I'm saying.
What do you think, Greg?
What is the sweet spot, right? Where is it? Where does it lie? I don't know. The ACC cannot, if they go into negotiations, that number can't be too low, right? Because then you're going to have, there's got to be a sweet spot there.
But there's no teams left. The board is cleared. Everybody's in a conference.
Well, okay, you're leaping. You're leap. Okay, I thought you meant like right now, like in negotiation before we learn if the board is clear. If before we learn, let's say the future does hold that Florida State wins this thing. Like there's zero. Okay, but before that, right? Does the ACC and Florida State negotiate? Because the ACC might feel like, geez, the court case is in Tallahassee. There's a judgment saying, Florida State's got good ground to do this. Now ACC's a little nervous. Now they go into negotiations with FSU. I'm kind of speculating here, but
right.
Where is that sweet spot before ACC loses everything? They don't want to go into the real court. They don't want discovery. They don't want this. What is the sweet spot between FSU and ACC? Can't be too high, can't be too low. The porridge can't be too hot, can't be too cold. It's got to be somewhere in the middle. What is that number?
So let me bring something else up, though, to counter that. The separation the separation charge from Florida State specifically names, and I said this on your show this morning, specifically names 3 schools that they brought on. They carry almost no value. SMU came in and FSU is saying that was actually a negative. It didn't even bring 0. It brought negative to the conference. Yeah. Then they're saying that there was a third of value for Cal and Stanford. And if they would have brought in Oregon State, that would have even made more sense. So my premise is Florida State leaves. The ACC is almost untenable as an AQ conference unless Notre Dame puts his foot in the ground and either joins as a full member or takes the whole thing over.
I think more than Florida State would have to leave.
Okay, my number was 3. Pick 3.
Okay. I think you're right, Nathan. I believe that more than I did yesterday. I thought again, there's a couple of nuclear bombs that were thrown in there. I thought before, today that the ACC could withstand losing the top brands if the schools decide to negotiate with the Florida State, with the North Carolina, possibly with the Clemson, Miami, Florida. As long as they could get their security, they could get their autonomy status, they keep it and all that kind of stuff. But man, the things that we learned today, I fear for the ACC's future if they lose a few top brands. I'm not sure they can even remain, especially as autonomy conference. I think it was an incredible day, an unbelievable day for the Big 12. Just unbelievable day for the Big 12. The incentives for Pittsburgh, for Louisville, and who else knows? But I think those 2 schools are in the sweet spot. There could be something even a little bit more valuable to the Big 12, right?
And how much more valuable is the Big 12 if they bring those schools in? Maybe their value goes up to 40.
It's an unbelievable day for the Big 12.
Right.
I mean, way better than I think things changed. I was not expecting the nuclear bombs to go off today. I'm floored. My head is still swimming. That's just the honest truth of it. I was not expecting what we heard today. And nobody that I talked to was expecting any of that. You guys know that ESPN being able to walk away 2027.
Right.
Nobody knew that. The Athletic did not know that. Yahoo Sports did not know that. Now maybe ESPN did, and they kept it quiet. But for the rest of us, we did not know that. So it's not just me that's going, what the heck just happened? It's everybody. And that has to change people's perspective. At least it changed mine.
And that's by itself, that's remarkable to me because you've been knees deep in this for so long, neck deep, that you would have, I think, a more clear perspective. You have more contacts than I do. I have a few. You have hundreds of people telling you information. You know so much more.
It's not the first time we've been shocked, though.
It isn't.
The first time we were shocked was the Magnificent Seven.
Who would have bet last night $1 million that Oregon State would be referenced as a value pickup over Stanford, Cal, and SMU, and be in charged legal documents for the Florida State to leave the ACC. Nobody.
Actually, in the legal,
Yep. No, that was a little shocking. In terms of what you're saying about the price, it's almost kind of like a dial. The higher they tune it, the less they're going to be able to leave. But then you're facing this problem again in the future. The lower you dial it, the more are going to be able to leave at that price, because whatever this price is with Florida State, that's precedent. You can't let them out at that, and then the next guy comes up and you say that doesn't count for you. You're going back to court. So that whatever that gets set at, and whatever you see it for Florida State, it may not actually be as much about Florida State as it tells us how many other schools and what other schools are also looking to do this, because that's got to be a very precisely geared number to determine who's going to be able to make it out and who's not.
Moen, you've been very silent sitting up there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it reminds me of that Eagles song, Dirty Laundry.
Can you sing it for us?
Sing it for us.
I cannot sing this. I cannot sing.
Can you, Greg?
No matter how
I don't know the song. I'm sorry, I don't.
But
you know what I was
thinking?
It
just seems like we've got a lot of dirty laundry coming out today between the ACC and the Florida State thing.
The Washington State win. I mean, we've had a lot come out here this week. It's been, if none of this happened with Florida State, we'd be talking right now about Oregon State and Washington State winning. Their settlement.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say one thing. In the shower this morning, this came to mind. I had in my mind that the lawyer for the lawyer for Florida State, who, standing up and saying some of these things, and they talked about it in the Board of Trustees. In my head, I'm thinking pinball wizard. Everything's on, right? You go to a pinball machine and there's lights everywhere. And that's what I was picturing. Everybody's been talking about this nuclear explosion and the ripples effect that goes from that. And it's all true. All those descriptions are apropos, because the world is different today than it was yesterday.
Is there any other more dirty laundry, though? I mean, did Florida State hold something back? Does Clemson have something that Florida State doesn't have? Does North Carolina have something that neither those other two schools have? Is there more dirty laundry? This is a question for Moen. Is there any more dirty laundry?
There is. There's no doubt there's dirty laundry just lined up here. Wait till we see the document that's completely blacked out.
Here's a $20 super chat from Cleveland Rocks. Let's get some noise in here. Cleveland Rocks has been one of our original members. Thank you so much for your loyalty and your $20 super chat, Cleveland. He says ACC is in the beginning of its death by 1,000 cuts. Love your show, and I'm looking forward to it in the coming year. I will be watching your show in sunny Florida for the winter. Have a safe and wonderful Christmas, and that's to all of us. Thank you so much, Cleveland Rocks. I really, really appreciate that. The things that I still come back to, and I know I mentioned it just a bit ago, but it really is so much about this perception issue. If they rebuild and they don't change the paradigm that the ACC is put on, assuming, let's say 3 schools leave, and they replace them with, let's say, Memphis, Tulane, and pick another, G5 or something. I don't know. Is the ACC something that is sellable? Can ESPN actually get people to pay to watch that league? Because I kind of am picturing an AAC type of competition, and Notre Dame's only there part-time. They can go out and make other money with other people.
Yeah, because of the immaculate, you can take this. Because of the nuclear bomb that was set off, I don't even know where to go with that anymore. I don't know if there's going to be an ACC to backfill. Like, I think Big 12 being the biggest winners today.
Right.
Stanford, California, and SMU are the biggest losers today.
Yep.
I don't know how to answer it, Nathan. I really don't. Immaculate, go for it.
I've let you guys know what I think about what's going to happen with the ACC. We're really not at a position where I can point to something and say, see, other than some of the lawsuits that are happening with the Ivy League. But I in terms of that theory, I think this advances that. I think this actually could allow a wider array of schools to move out. That was always kind of my problem with it is, how do they get that many schools out? What do they do with that mid-tier where they would need to push to the Big 12? And you've been touching upon it, that this was a big day for the Big 12. Because this just doesn't look good. I mean, you're talking about ESPN already had plans to maybe drop this as it was. Right. You lose Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina State, Virginia Tech and Virginia. What do you think they're going to do? You think, I mean, you'd be lucky to get them to stay at half rate. I mean, they're thinking about leaving completely. So to me, this opens the door to some big opportunities, both for the Big 12 and also maybe for the ACC shell to be used in another way. You know, like an elite private university style conference that's in the A4 that gives those schools a seat at the table for rulemaking in the future. There's a lot, and we'll see. We need a lot more to happen before we can really get on that. But I think that there's more possibilities than people might realize right now.
I did a poll today on Twitter, and it's not quite done. It's 24 hours. I'll find out tomorrow the results. But I asked Washington State and Oregon State fans, if today the ACC called, and they could have called today, would you want your teams or schools to accept an invitation to the ACC? That was trending to no by a count of about 90% to 10. So I think that tells you how far the perception of what the ACC will end up being has come. And we're talking about a venerated conference, a conference that has been real and has had respect for decades. Pac-12, Conference of Champions.
People really don't want to believe, and I totally get it. This was such a bombshell, though. I actually worry for some people. To know that this.
What do you mean? Who are you worried about?
Well, our boy Oot. I mean, when the pack broke down, it was quite a shocker for him.
He was very frustrated and angry,
and there was a lot of other people as well.
Right.
And there's a lot of folks who you could say with good reason thought that the ACC was stronger than the Pac. It was stronger than the Big 12. That it's ludicrous that they would have this happen. So to have so much of this thrown in their face all at once, and the arguments that they've made for so long to kind of be dissolved like this. Yeah, I kind of worry about it. That's my thing is there's a lot of people right now that are probably reeling, and we're going to have a hard time trying to value what the ACC actually is now because we don't know. I mean, it's an unknown.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Moen, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, going back a year, go back 1 year, did any of us think this was a possibility that we could have a college football landscape without the Pac-12 or the ACC?
I did.
Yes. Well, now without the ACC. Now, I didn't think
Sorry.
I didn't think the ACC was gonna. I didn't think there would be this in danger of completely, because I didn't know this bomb was going to be thrown today. So I guess I would say no. I did not think so.
So I can say in all honesty, and I like to think I'm an honest dude, that I did. I saw what happened. I was watching as a third party what happened to the Big 12, and I told people on Twitter, the next to fall will be the Pac-12, and the one to go after that is the ACC.
So any people who aren't realignment junkies.
There you go.
Yeah. It just seemed unfathomable that we would not have a Pac-12 or an ACC. And here we are. It's D-Day. The Pac-12's gone. Oregon State and Washington State remain, but do we really consider them the Pac-12? The ACC. Florida State's saying we're leaving. the flagship program of the ACC for the last 20 years is saying we're out. And we found out the ACC has been double dealing with their member institutions.
Yeah.
It seems almost like a bad dream.
Yeah.
That you just wouldn't expect. You don't anticipate these things. But now it's here, and now you have to deal with the harsh reality of it. Where does Florida State go? Where does Clemson go? Where does North Carolina State go? Where does Wake Forest go? Where does Boston College go?
Good questions.
The first sign that I knew there was something to this is with our best buddy, and we all love this guy, Tony Altimore, stands up and says the ACC and the Pac-12 are the best leagues in the country. He said that with a straight face. And he told the Big Ten and the SEC that they were better. Well, not the Big Ten. He said out loud the SEC, they were better than the SEC. Academics, the Alliance guys, right? I think as a BYU guy, we've had to live out of the box for 50 years, okay? So we have done this imagining. So when you're talking about people, realignment junkies and stuff, BYU's been in the woods. And so we've watched this stuff from afar, knowing that some of the statements and some of the things that were happening were not they just didn't make sense. And the educational thing, the hierarchy stuff, the way that they talked about everybody else being less than them, that was the tip of the hat to me, that those two schools were looking at the wrong thing. They weren't talking to Bob Thompson about keeping their conference alive as an athletic endeavor. They were talking about the educational parts of it and their communications with Stanford and their control of the research money and these giant endowments. That has nothing to do with football, right? They have been looking at the wrong target. The SEC's been right all along. The Big Ten came along and figured it out. Now, 15 years ago with the Big Ten Network, everybody else has been walking in zombie land. Brett Yormark, I guarantee you saw this when he took the job at the Big 12. I guarantee you he knew the dominoes would go like this.
Can I make a comment on Tony for a second? Tony has taught me one thing and one thing only. Tony with the School of Wharton with a GPA of 4.0 versus the fat man from Minnesota with a 2.0 GPA who just slid in to be able to go to St. Cloud State, Minnesota. The only thing that Tony has taught me, Chartman Tony, is that a consultant is a fancy word for somebody who never has to say they were wrong. That's all that Tony has taught me.
All right, here we go. VC Knoll is in the house. Vince, how are we doing today? How you feeling about Florida State?
I was saying I had to grab a drink on the way in. Today is a good day.
There we go.
Today is a good day. And I caught some of the show. I told you, Nathan, that I was at the store buying all the Christmas goods, right?
Right. My wife did that for me very thankfully. I appreciate her. She's the best.
Surprisingly, it wasn't as crowded as I thought it would be. But so I'm not really clear of everything you've covered up to this point, but we can definitely, I definitely watched it live. Brian and I were back and forth on what we were seeing. There were a lot of eyeball emojis of the things that were said. And then after I spent the time to read the 38-page document, some more things raised the eyebrow too. So
give me a top 5 right now.
Okay, the top 5. Okay, so here's something that I think some people haven't, if they haven't read the document, maybe it's kind of gone by them, or there would be no reason for them to know because they didn't really put a lot of words to this. After every one of the counts, what it says in that document is basically if the court sides with Florida State on this, please, or not please, but this should be considered Florida State's announcement to the conference that they are leaving by August, whatever the date was, 14th, 2023.
Right.
Yep.
And a lot of that, they didn't really talk about that. But that was after every count. And so when you're talking about speeding up the process here, We're not talking about Florida State being, giving notice by 2024. We're saying, depending on how this judgment goes, we're saying that we're backdating that to the 2023, which means Florida State has the possibility to be in a different conference by 2025.
Right.
Hold on though, because it's better than that.
Number two.
Because if we were really talking about here an unenforceable contract, that means that Florida State is scot-free whenever they want, because it's not just about the grant of rights. It's also about
anything in the bylaws.
Your entity not doing what they're supposed to do as a representative of your institution, which means forget notification dates. We're just saying we're done now.
Free and clear right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If the commissioner can skirt his own bylaws on, pushing back that date, how can they enforce any of them on Florida State? If you're the lawyer, I think that's all you do is say, hey, before we go further, Judge, how do they do that?
Right. Here is Exhibit A of our partner not operating in good faith. And that should be really the end all beat all. We know it's more than that, right? We know it's going to be more than that. But by the way, Greg, I haven't met you yet.
Yeah.
But Greg, I watch your stuff all the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Vince. I watch you as well. You and Jen were fantastic the other night. But I got a question for you now. If you're talking about backdated, if FSU gets in the clear and they're backdated on August 14th, 2023, that would technically mean that they would be freed earlier than 2025. They'd be freed July 1st, 2024.
Correct. No, they would be
25. You might have said that by mistake.
No, you are absolutely right. They would be free for next season. They would.
Yes.
However, logistically speaking, that's probably not going to be able to be done.
Yeah.
All right. So I asked for 5. You gave me 2. You're off the hook for the other 3.
I had to think a little bit.
Was there anything else? Was there anything else that you just jaw dropped, fell out of your chair? Give me a couple of those.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody talks about, having to go to the ACC office to review the documents, right? The documents are not available. But then there's documents online that you can look at. Well, it became crystal clear today that it's not just about the grant of rights, right? There's a separate media document, media rights document that it's not on the internet. You can't get to it. To me, that piece of it, because, having to go to Charlotte or wherever to see the documents, but if they're online, what are we really talking about here?
Right.
There's another document that you have to make an appointment. You have to be supervised.
Yeah.
You
you're 5 years old or something. It's ridiculous.
It's legitimately like Nicolas Cage, right? In National Treasure. And you cannot take any photographs or any copies of it. I don't even believe you can transcribe it. So what are we really trying to keep secret here? That was a bombshell to me. I didn't realize the nuance between, the bylaws of the conference, the grant of rights itself, and then having a media document, which is the one that no one has seen.
Right.
Vince, do you think that the nuclear bomb that went off where ESPN could walk away from that ESPN?
That's number 4.
Okay. I'm sorry to step on your toes.
Right. Yeah, go.
But that nuclear bomb, was that nuclear bomb inserted, do you think, in the media document that no one could see? Because nobody in the press, maybe ESPN, but nobody else, Vince, nobody, Yahoo Sports, nobody knew that was the case. That they didn't know that nuclear bomb existed. Do you think that was in the media document? That was in the vault?
It must be, because otherwise, people like you and you guys, we would have all been talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We would have all been talking about this. I have a feeling that the only people that know about that, are our intimate, loving media partner, right? and they didn't want anybody to know about that. They legitimately, according to what was said today. Now, you know, we only got the Florida State side of things, right? So I get that it's going to be colored in that way. But if it is what they made it out to be, that means ESPN could basically on that date and time say, you know what? We don't really want to do this anymore.
And that could happen. That could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could happen. But here you go. They can do that. And so that's 9 years left on the agreement that they can do that. But they're going to hold the member institutions for that revenue. They're going to hold us to that. They're going to hold us. They're going to hold the schools to that, but not hold the media partner toward that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just not going to fly.
Well, and hang on. I'm going to interrupt you there because I think that's something that we have all been talking over. The whole idea that ESPN could term their agreement with the ACC, walk away and say, hey, you guys go find another partner. I know Disney Channel is looking for stuff, and maybe you can go over here and be on the CW or, go to YouTube TV. I don't care where you go, but we're not going to be your media partner. But the ACC controls all those schools and says, whoever we pick, you're going to go with. And that part of it almost is the most shocking because it means that anybody that's in that school again, and here's SMU 4 years into a contract they've not seen a penny for. And then the conference is basically without a TV partner. No partner at all, and yet the conference still exists. It just makes absolutely no sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all, and which also, why these are all questions that'll come out if it's going to go to court. These are the questions that are going to be answered. Like, at what point did adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU seem like the right thing to do, other than survival of the conference? Not to actually bolster the conference's tier 1 media right footprint. It's strictly to keep the conference at a level that ESPN can't come back to them and say, hey, we're going to reduce the payout.
How many times has Jim Phillips used the phrase, we have built a fortress? We have built a fortress. He's not saying we just elevated the value of Florida State or anything like that. It's we built a fortress. So that
Jim Phillips,
into what Vince said.
The Jim Phillips, who is the security guard at the gate of the gated neighborhood that we all live in.
Right. Hang on. Let me bring up Jim Phillips. So here's the statement. I'm going to show this to everybody. Sorry, I had to add it. Here's the statement from the ACC, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is coming directly from your commissioner, Jim Phillips' office.
And Jim Ryan.
Okay, and Jim Ryan. And he says, just the first paragraph is the funny thing. As a league, we are proud of the successes of our student athletes and that the ACC has won the most national championships over the past 2.5 years, while also achieving the highest graduation success and academic performance rates. The rest of it I'm not going to read. What's funny about that is your premier football school just got cut out of the college football playoff. How can you say those two things and have them mean something?
I mean, they don't. And
they don't.
They don't mean anything. And, that retort there was way more thought out and way more emotional than when he should have been lobbying for Florida State after we got snubbed.
Yeah, and you never heard him. He's gone.
No. I tweeted something earlier today, or X'd, sorry. I X'd something earlier today, like, where has this guy been? Casper has been invisible since, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And now he comes out of the woodwork. And by the way, apparently the ACC was ready to countersue last night.
Yeah.
So they knew this was coming. And the whole thing, and what I was going to say on the fifth thing is, it's real important, you guys, that the venue for this happens in Florida.
You had one more point. I want you to go ahead and finish.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's real
okay.
important.
Sorry, I didn't want
Tallahassee.
to.
Yeah, it's real important that the venue for whatever goes down is in the state of Florida.
And how does that get? How is this gonna get decided? What venue? Where is this thing? You know, because the ACC they got a head start supposedly, right?
They have a head start, I guess, but it's kind of a premeditated. Like they're not dropping that. You know what I'm saying? There's no.
What are
they have
suing?
no complaint.
Yeah,
they have no
nothing
complaint.
to sue. Yeah.
They have no complaint. And I'm not a
really
lawyer,
quick.
right?
I don't know.
Vince,
I don't know how a North Carolina court could force Florida State to have to file in North Carolina. To me, I don't get that. Maybe that's true, but yeah, that part just kind of seemed like it was. We have to look like we're doing something.
Sure.
Really quick, I want to highlight something. We just gifted 5 memberships to our members queue. That would be 5. If you're new to the channel, everybody new to the channel, please subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter. And become part of the Big 12 Mafia family. 5 memberships have been gifted to you from us. They're good for a month. We hope you take it and then stay. Thank you very much for being here tonight. This is one of our best shows from a quality standpoint. Certainly one of the highest we've ever put together. And that we're here for you guys. We're not here for us. Well, maybe Greg is here for himself, but the rest of us are here for you.
Holy smokes.
I just wanted to let you know that
Shots
that was
fired.
out there. Okay, Vince.
He's got a point. He's got a point.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that you know, I've learned a lot about lawyering and lawyering up in the last week or so. And I'm not claiming to know anything, but I do know that it is important that and it's notable that the plaintiff often gets the treatment on the venue.
Right.
So and because Florida State is the plaintiff and they filed this in Tallahassee, I think you know, the chances are good that that's the venue that it's going to take place. And I think that's important because, you know, hey, if they're trying to keep this document super secret squirrel, if this thing is going to happen in the state of Florida, because Florida State is a government entity, they are subject to the Sunshine State laws, which means that document is going to be public record and everyone is going to have access to it. And I don't know that ESPN wants that to happen.
Very true.
Yeah.
And anybody else have any questions? Vince, here's a super chat because you're here. Sergeant Pickles says, welcome to the Big Ten. Preemptive welcome, Vince. See you in Tallahassee. That's from a Washington guy.
I can't wait. I mean, I literally can't wait. And you know, Sergeant Pickles, I have a neighbor right across the street from me. It's flying his Washington flag right now in northern Florida.
Rightfully so. Very good. That's what we want. I got to get a couple other super chats in here. We're 7 minutes after 2 hours. I cannot believe how long this has gone. Bill G for $5, who's one of our members, says, rip Ryan Miner, basketball and baseball star at Oklahoma, who lost his battle with cancer earlier today, age 49. I don't know who that is, but certainly rest in peace, Ryan Miner. Thank you, Bill G. We appreciate you being here, and thanks for making people aware of that. And then Hall of Fame college football Jason Watkins says, screw Tony Altimore. Okay, you can't say that too often. That should be a drinking game one night, but we're not going to do that right now. Anybody else have questions for Vince while he's here?
Yeah, Vince. Look forward to seeing you in Columbus.
I can't wait.
For the guy named Moen. My jersey number 69. It says Moen on the back. Look for me. I'll get you a land grant beer.
I can't wait, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why. And that is because, and if you've watched my show at all, you know that I have an undying love for the Marching Chiefs, which is the marching band for Florida State. And because I was a member, my daughter's a member. Florida State's Marching Chiefs group, the director that originally started that group was an Ohio State grad. And so a lot of the traditions and stuff they brought from Ohio State in the early, maybe it was the 40s or 50s. So there's a lot of connection between the two groups there.
The best damn band in the land.
That's right. And the marching Chiefs all the damn time. So
one quick question for you.
Yeah.
talking a lot about Florida State, but I'm going to ask you about Clemson.
Sure.
What do you think about how Clemson has not come out? Do you think it's just a matter of time and they will, or do you think that this means maybe they don't yet have confirmation from a conference?
I don't think they have confirmation from a conference yet, and I didn't think that until recently.
Okay.
And you know, part of all this is I think that, you know, when you're talking about the Magnificent Seven, when you were talking about that and how these schools were getting together to kind of look at this thing, I'm not so sure that there was enough camaraderie in that group to share information. Just look at what happened today in the social media realm with you know, members of the conference being really vocal about what Florida State did today. I don't know that Florida State trusts anyone but themselves right now. And so whether Clemson has had that information that Florida State has, you know, about, you know, the ESPN being able to walk away, I don't know. I don't know about all that. But I do know that it seems like, I mean, it's obvious that all of the other schools are more than willing to let Florida State, you know,
lead the way for sure.
Lead the way.
Yeah, because whatever you guys said at that number we were talking about before you came on, whatever that number gets set for them, if they settle, that number is basically open to everybody because they would just sue to get the same number. In terms of Clemson, it's somebody in that Magnificent Seven leaked. I mean, we wouldn't know about it unless someone who was part of that. So like you're saying, the lack of trust in there, 100%. And someone let out the beans on it.
So who were the Magnificents at? I don't even remember anymore. Florida State, Clemson, Miami.
Virginia Tech. Yeah, North Carolina State. Miami, Clemson, Florida State.
Yep.
Okay. The Judas in the group. I got that
from Moen. Moen beat that into my head, so I can't take credit for that.
The Judas in the group. Can you name it?
Yes. North Carolina State.
I think so.
Absolutely.
I think it's Miami.
No, it's North Carolina State, without a doubt.
I think it's North Carolina State.
Yeah, I think North Carolina State wasn't the Judas at the time because they switched their vote.
I'm talking now.
I know now there, but I think the one that leaked the Magnificent Seven's existence in the very first place, I think was Miami because North Carolina State was part of that at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know, and it's probably, you know, probably rightly so. I mean, you want to feel like you have comrades in whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? You do want to do that. But I don't know that Florida State feels anything other than it's us against the world.
I know the Yahoo had a report that Clemson and North Carolina had been in communication about all this. That was just out yesterday or the day before. So,
yeah, and I wouldn't doubt. Hey, if Clemson, you know, has an offer, or you know, offer, not the right word, right?
Yeah.
If Clemson has a landing spot, if they do, and they know about that, I wouldn't imagine it's going to take very long for them to start, you know, start the barking.
There's a question, super chat, PSU Nitwit. Thank you very much from Penn State. We appreciate you being here, Nitwit. He says, if FSU called a meeting to disband the ACC tomorrow, how many schools would vote to disband the conference? That's to everybody, by the way.
Yeah, I would say
not yet.
I would say 5, maybe.
Yeah, there's not enough yet. I don't think. They would need...
There are too many schools that do not have any comfort in what happens after this.
Yeah.
I would say that
especially after that nuclear bomb of ESPN being able to walk away after 2027.
But are they more mad at Florida State for exposing it, or are they more mad at their own administrations for signing on to it in the first place? Why aren't they mad at Phillips? Why aren't they mad at the ACC?
Both. Yeah.
I think they are, but hey, like I said, Florida State's taking the arrows.
Yeah, but I don't think it's kind of like when Wild Ute said Utah wanted to be the big bad in the Big 12. I don't think any of that matters, guys. Who cares who's the one that's the venturing out and doing the work? At the end of the day, everybody has to fight for themselves, don't they?
They have to. They should be feeling that way, and they should think that way. But if you, and I know social media tends to be kind of the extreme fringes, but you would think that well, Florida State is just persona non grata amongst the teams that would not vote to disband the conference.
Immaculate, can you answer this?
Yeah, what you got?
The apparent violations of FSS, and then there's a couple of numbers, should be grounds for a circuit court judge to invalidate the signing agreement and therefore financial penalty to leave the ACC. And Jim Skinner, $20 super chat. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I cannot speak to these particular statutes, but what I can say is the fact that the ACC broke, commissioner and office broke their own bylaws. It makes it very hard for them to enforce any bylaws. And all it takes for the court is to come in and say that this, consideration was off, or for whatever reason they could say, and they can make that, they can declare that this is an unenforceable contract. That is not an unheard of thing. I mean, business contracts are not, it's not like you sign this, you're stuck to this for life. I mean, there's lawyers that all they do is get people out of business contracts. So it happens a lot in this big business.
I think it's important to point out that prior to today, I was of the opinion that while I thought that Florida State getting off scot-free with $0 out of pocket was a possibility, I did not think it was it had any kind of legs. Like it was just kind of like a pie in the sky.
Right.
After today,
nope.
No.
It is possible that Florida State could basically peace out.
Yep.
You get nothing, and thanks for playing.
Yep.
Well, yeah. This could bring them to the settlement table quickly, because even if all that's going to happen, you're going to have appeals. You're going to have a process that still has to play out. I could see Florida State being willing to settle at an amount just to not have to go through all that, even though they possibly very likely could get it down to $0 at the end, that they might do a payment, and then that would become the new precedent for everyone else. So
agreed. Yeah, agreed with you on that. The way I explained it to my daughters, who are heavily invested in this, which I love, by the way. That's good parenting. Good parenting.
Awesome. That's
good
awesome.
parenting. Florida State did this thing today, and they put the $0 number out there. Like he verbally said it.
He did.
Yep. Right.
Which is important. And then the ACC comes back and says, no, 572 million. And Florida says, no, we'll go with 0. And then the ACC goes, well, we don't really want all this to get out. Let's go with 400 million. Florida State says, no, we're going to go with 0. Yeah. But eventually, you're going to get to a point, and I don't know what that point is. None of us know. But eventually, it makes more sense to settle, cut ties, and everybody gets to keep their secrets secret, whatever those secrets are.
There's a tweet that came out from Bob Thompson a little while ago. It says, just wondering why it took so long for an ACC school to find a hole in the ACC ESPN agreement, common sense, right? Big enough to drive a truck through. So many unhappy, yet nobody bothered to go to the ACC office to look at the deal until recently, big question mark. That extension clause has been in place since 2016. It is extraordinary. I think people have just let ESPN lead them by the nose because they're ESPN. And now that Fox has stepped up and said, we're in this game too, ESPN is struggling. They're running out of money. Disney Channel's costing them, Disney Plus has cost them billions. ESPN makes money, but it's not enough to keep the whole thing going. They are in real trouble.
We live in a different age. There's different rules. There's, it used to be a company like that could control the narrative. They could control the information. I think that's what you're seeing. These are old practices from where they're hiding the gore, they're hiding the media rights deal. That used to be when they could control things. And that has changed to a large degree. There's a much bigger trial by public opinion that can happen now. And I think that's the route we saw Florida State take. The way he presented that in that meeting was not that he was presenting to the trustees. It was like he was presenting to all of us. I mean, it's a public trial.
So
Hey,
think about
Go ahead.
why didn't people go and look at the document? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But think about the world we live in right now. What is the word that everyone has heard to describe the grant of rights?
Ironclad.
That's the word.
Well, it's two words. But that's
We've
okay.
all iron dash clad. I don't know if it's a hyphenated word or not, but
It's hyphenated. Yes, you're right.
But that's what everyone has said, and it's all over social media. And if you look at anybody that posts anything about it, that's what everybody calls it. And that kind of barrage of propaganda seeps into people's souls. It's not ironclad. Someone just needed to go and find why it wasn't.
So we're almost 2.5 hours, and I am tired. I don't know about the rest of you guys. It's been an eventful 2 days. So I want to start to wind this up. Vince, you were the last in. We'll have you do your piece out first. What do you want to tell people about what you do and why Florida State is important today?
Well, first of all, Garnet and Old is the show. Ryan Eastman and I, Big Papa East, if you're looking for him on X, he and I started the show 3 years ago. We're just fans. We're just fans. We love the school, and growing like crazy. Every Thursday night at 7, and we do some other stuff too. And lately, because of all this realignment stuff, we're everywhere, right? So,
right.
But I would appreciate, and I have appreciated Nathan, you being on the show, Moan, you've been on the show, Immaculate, you've been in the chats, is for sure. Greg, I'd like to have you come on the show. But the deal is that regardless of what happens to Florida State, it affects right now, like it's affecting everyone. And while we can be rivals and troll online, because it's kind of fun to do that sometimes, the fact of the matter is college football is, we all love it, and which is why we're all here. So I would encourage everybody to continue watching. Everybody on this screen, like and subscribe, whatever it is that gets you the information that you want to get to. But Florida State is not long for the ACC. I can't tell you a time frame, and whether it's the Big Ten, which I believe, or some other realm. We are going to be a productive partner to whoever it is that we go with.
And I will tell everybody, I first met Vince in June, right, Vince? I think late May, and he told me in early July that this was going to happen. So prophets out there all over the place, but this is the first guy I ever heard that the definitive statement that Florida State was going to have it out. A Hall of Fame college football. One more super chat from Jason. He says, "Got a split, gents. Just wanted to say great show and a shout out to the Golden Blue Dude one more time. Rip GBD." And we do again. Tip our hats. Tell everybody, Greg, why you're so important.
I'm not important, but I got one thing to say to Vince.
Sure, please take those. You can talk as long as
How are you going to feel, Vince, in 2025 when the Florida State Seminoles roll into Huntington Bank Stadium in the third week in November? The snow is flying. It's about 33 degrees. What was that?
I said freezing.
Yeah, freezing. Florida State comes in as a 24.5-point favorite, and you guys only win by 21. How are you going to feel, Vince? How are you going to feel?
Herb Street,
you only win by 21.
Herb Street will annihilate us for the only winning by 21. First of all,
I would expect that from my friend Herb Street. I appreciate it. Thanks, Vince.
But I will say I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Bobby Bowden, anytime, any place, anywhere, it doesn't matter. And I would say to any Big Ten team or whatever, welcome to Tallahassee in August and September.
There we
I
go.
can't make it that day. Yeah, but anyways, thanks. Appreciate it. Nathan, Vince, Moen,
Thank you.
Immaculate. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks
You
as
bet.
always,
Thank
Greg.
you so much, Greg. Have a
you,
good
Greg.
weekend and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You got it.
Immaculate, what do you want to leave people with your thoughts and final ideas here?
Well, hang tight with us. We're finally just getting into it. I mean, we've had a lot to talk about leading up to here, and yet we're just getting started. It feels like
We are. It's true.
it feels like we've been setting the stage, and
We're at
now,
the end of the beginning. As
well.
Churchill said, we are at the end of the beginning. Florida State, the ACC was the last domino for the end of the beginning to come.
This is the last vestiges of the previous model, of the previous way of doing things. And as they tear this down, I think we'll start to see what the next thing is going to be. We're going to see things going on against the NCAA. That's going to affect where the power is, who's in control. So just hang tight with us. This was a rough 2 days, but I think that this is just getting us prepared. So looking forward to it, and see us on the show here. And I'm on X on Immaculate View, as you can see on the screen.
Moen.
I'm not going to sing We've Only Just Begun. So just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays out in the chat. Thanks for everybody for leaving the super chats and joining the membership program here at Big 12 Mafia. We really appreciate it.
And I just want to tell everybody out there, everybody who's watched our shows over the last several months, and all the people that contribute, thank you so much. We're here again for you guys. We're not here for us. And especially Vince is on a different show. He's on Garnet and Old, and he and Ryan have their own show, and they do stuff that's good. There's so many people have set the stage for us to be here today. I thought the Colorado / Four Corners thing was big with the Pac-12. Florida State has they ran over that with a dump truck today. And that news is much bigger. And I think we truly are at the end of the beginning. We thank you, everybody, for everything you give us. Thank you for all the super chats, the new members. I hope the people that have gotten gifts appreciate them and come back again. And if you're first to this channel tonight, please subscribe and follow us all on Twitter. Other than that, I'm going to tell everybody to get some sleep. Vince, you again, Merry Christmas. And let's go. And right now our next show is planned for, I believe Christmas is Monday, so probably not Monday. But Tuesday, definitely, we're going to be seeing everybody again. So other than that, unless you guys have anything else, we're going to get out of here.
We're good.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone for coming in and chat and hanging out with us and being part on all the gifts. It was a lot of fun here tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Peace out, everybody.
Later, guys.